my tea now. I'm sorry, I'm wore out a little bit here. Alright. Today, me and my son went to Walnut Grove, Minnesota. Home of the Laura. I'm sorry, my foot kicked this, and I'm trying to fix it so that it'll just, there we go. I didn't mean for my foot to kick it, it just did. We went to Walnut Grove, and we went to the Laura Ingalls Wilder Museum. Now, I've already been there, and been through the museum and everything and saw everything. But today I wanted to go to the gift shop, and I wanted to look around, and I wanted to see if there was anything else new. Oh shoot, you know what? Oh, wait a minute. I think it's in here. Oh, come here. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm going to start off. When we got there, one of the first things that I did was that they have this thing where you can squanch the penny. And here it is. I'm looking for my penny. Okay. You can squanch the penny, and it will, oh, wow. This says Olson's Mercantile on the back with the phone number. Okay. Anyway, you put 50 cents in plus a penny, and then you go and you turn the wheel, the little handle, and you get to pick which one you want. And you keep turning it anyway. It'll put the design on the penny. And then here's the back of it. I don't know if you can read the back or not. I'm trying to. Anyway, so I got that. I do have to find a place to put it though, so I don't lose it. I'm going to put this with a bookmark. I have a bookmark somewhere. I used to have one from the Oz Museum, and I don't know what happened to it. So anyway, the next thing that I did was we were looking at other stuff, and I happened to find this doll from the Queen's Treasures, and they do not make these dolls anymore. If you go to the Queen's Treasures website, they don't have they don't have these dolls anymore. Actually, Laura, all the other dolls except for Mary was sold out online. And then when I looked again last night, they don't even have Mary available. So this is the last Mary that I'm aware of. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, one of the things that really blew me when I got home here is I gotta tell you guys a funny story. Okay, we're at the museum, right? And I'm looking at these dolls, and I spied this one. And I was like, I want this doll because they're hard to find. I mean, they're really hard to get your hands on. And I wanted this doll because, and I wanted to get her because of the fact that I live here in Minnesota. And I live the Laura Ingalls Wilder area. And because I'm like more or less dead center. I joke you not. I am more or less dead center between Walnut Grove and DeSmet, South Dakota. So between DeSmet, South Dakota and Walnut Grove, Minnesota, I'm like dead center. I'm not joking you. It's like an hour or so to drive to Walnut Grove, and then it's like an hour or so to drive to DeSmet, South Dakota. Me and my son are going to go tomorrow night and see we're going to go tomorrow night and see the play. But anyway, I saw this doll. I grabbed her and I was like, oh, I was like so excited to get her. Well, then I got looking at her and I was like, oh my God, look at her face and everything. I didn't even realize, you're going to love this, her eyes open and close. See? Her eyes open and close. I did not know that. I didn't even see that. So I grabbed her and I was just like, I wanted her. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, gosh, she's made of porcelain. At least so I thought. Okay, come on. I mean, I'm serious. You're going to love this story. I thought she was porcelain. Because up here, she's got a torso. And I thought, okay, and then she's jointed and then full legs. And I was like, oh my God, I got a joint, porcelain doll, right? Okay. I thought she was porcelain. We get home and I come upstairs and I'm eating my supper and I'm looking at her and I got looking and all of a sudden I noticed that, wait a minute, her eyes aren't open. What happened? What, and so I picked her up and I was like, oh, her eyes open and close. Oh my God, I didn't even know that. Her eyes open and close. Now, I don't know nothing about the Queen's Treasure dolls. I know nothing. I seriously, I know nothing. Yes, you can laugh at me because I know nothing about the Queen's Treasures dolls. I know nothing. Okay, so, all right. So I go and I'm looking at her and I pick her up and I'm holding her and I was like looking at her hair because it was like, her hair was like all messed up, from people picking her up and looking at her and everything. And, and her hair was just like flying all over the place. And I was like, okay, I know she's probably got a delicate wig or something. I didn't even know if she was rooted or not. I had no idea. And like I said, I know nothing about the Queen's Treasures dolls. I know nothing. I've never had one. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm looking at her and pretty soon I was like, I was looking at her hair and I was like looking and I'm like, and I was like checking out her wig and everything and I'm looking and I was checking her out and all of a sudden I was like, there was something about when I moved her arm, the sound that it made. It was like, this is weird. It makes a funny sound. That don't sound like porcelain. That don't sound like porcelain on porcelain. I'm like, I'm like dumbfounded. And I'm like, oh my God, what did they do? They switch out the doll because they put the doll in the bag, no box or anything. And I'm sitting there just kind of like, oh my God. I was like, how am I going to get her home without her getting broke? where am I going to lay her so she's not going to get broke? Like I said, I start moving her joints and stuff, and I'm looking, and her eyes are open and closing, and I'm looking and examining her, and I'm like, there's something strange here. And I'm looking. So I take this hand, this little finger right here. I put my hand like this, and I take my thumb, and I push on this finger. Because I thought, well, if it pops off, I can fix, little finger, not a problem. I've done that to other porcelain dolls where their finger has, they've fallen over, the fingers have popped off, I've glued them back on, you couldn't tell the difference. I wasn't worried about that. So then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, that finger moves. So I'm examining it, and I'm like, what? I'm looking and I'm looking. Again, I will reiterate, I know nothing about these dolls. I know nothing. Trust me, this story gets even better. I'm looking at her, and when I first got her here, I was looking at her face. What does this face remind you of? I'm just going to pop her hair back. Up. I'm going to pop her bonnet back. What does her face remind you of? Come on, be honest. Be honest. What dolls does she remind you of? Which ones? You got it. She reminded me of the Maple Leaf dolls. And here I'm thinking, this is making me want to get a Maple Leaf doll even more. So I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, she looks just like the picture of the dolls on the website. I want one of those dolls. And I kept thinking, one of these days I'm going to get one. I've just been, and yeah, I'm digging myself a bigger hole here. Be patient. I'm digging myself a bigger hole. So anyway, I go back to looking at her, and I'm examining. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do something here. So I take, and I'm like, push it on these fingers. And I'm like, so I'm like, I start pushing on the thumbs and the other fingers. And so I take my fingernails are long, right? So I take it, and I'm like, wait a minute. Did they switch dolls on me? I swear to God, when I picked this doll up at the museum, I swear it was porcelain. I swear by all is holy that this doll was porcelain. I swear. I'm looking at her flawless. Her face was flawless. Her eyes are flawless. She's a flawless doll. She's perfect. Absolutely 180 degrees. Perfect. She's like 180% perfect. Just Okay, yeah, I'm digging myself a bigger hole. Okay. Again, I know nothing about these dolls. So anyway, I'm sitting here looking at her, and I'm like, and I discover, what'd they do? Did they switch out and give me a vinyl doll instead of the porcelain one? So I'm like, oh my God. And it's like, what? So I'm like, because downstairs I was afraid to let her stand by herself because I was standing her up and she could stand by herself. But I didn't want to do that. So I went looking for a doll stand. Found one. Took it off the porcelain doll in the other bedroom. And I put that doll in the wheelchair in the other bedroom. Okay. Guess what? Okay. If I ain't dug myself a bigger hole already. Let me dig it a little further. I went online and I started looking at the Maple Leah dolls. And I'm sitting there going, you don't suppose. And I'm like, she's got a tag on her that says the Queen's Treasures. I go online, I'm looking, the company's based in New York. Okay, yeah. But God, she looks like the Maple Leah dolls. I'm not joking. She does. Now, folks, I've never owned a Maple Leah doll either. I know nothing about the Maple Leah dolls. I know nothing. I swear. I know nothing. I've never had one. I've always wanted to get one. So when I'm looking at this doll, I'm